Hey, well, what's up, guys? Welcome to The Collision. Daniel here. I think one of those fun kind of thought experiments that we've probably all had at some point in our life is, hey, if we won the lottery, what would we do with all our newfound wealth? I think the correct, proper answer is definitely buy more books, buy lots and lots of books. But this is sort of one of those fun questions that we all ask ourselves at some point. Well, Jerry and Marge Go Large is a story about precisely that. A couple that wins the lottery, exploring what you do with it, is just dropped on Paramount Plus, so let's talk about it. So this is an interesting movie. This is not a movie that I think is hasn't been like just tons of promo or not just sort of super mainstream. Again, this is kind of exclusive to the Paramount streaming platform, but it's based on a true story. This is kind of inspired by real life events of a couple. I think this is like a 2011 maybe when the actual events and taking place happened in this movie. But it features kind of the story of this old, recently retired husband and his wife kind of transitioning, trying to figure out what to do with their life. He's good at math. He's kind of a smart guy and ends up kind of gaming the lottery, figuring out a loophole in sort of this regional lottery thing that basically guarantees him to play the odds. And you can just win every month or so. He just wins and he invests all of that money back into the lottery. And he just keeps kind of gaming this system and winning big. And it's an interesting movie because it actually deals with, I think, a lot of themes and is relevant to Christians. I'd say maybe the best way to even describe this movie is at least to me, that this is almost like a secular version of a faith-based film, kind of the typical, you get kind of like these, that churches make, or kind of in the Christian subculture maybe, that this is kind of, has a lot of similarities, I think for good and bad, but a lot of similarities to that, even though it's sort of a mainstream kind of Hollywood movie, but it's definitely a feel-good, inspirational story. I think like a lot of faith-based films, it does at times feel, at least what I call kind of scripty, almost like in a theatrical or like a live theater sense, that it paints a lot of the time with kind of broad, bold brushstrokes. So there's not a whole lot of like subtlety or nuance or ambiguity. Like the film definitely communicates to you what message it's trying to share with you and kind of what morals, and kind of guides you with like how you're supposed to feel at this time and the emotion. So it's not necessarily like a super deep or weighty movie that you're gonna have to kind of really think through or kind of read between the lines. It's all just sort of bold, right out overt. But kind of on the other hand is the story that it is communicating is a very kind of wholesome and just sort of inspiring movie. These characters, again, I don't want to give the whole plot away of the movie, but these characters are kind of fueled and driven just not by selfish desires, but by just kind of using their money, using this gift, using this kind of this blessing that they've had to kind of revive their small Michigan town, to bless the people in the community, kind of bring. It's almost like a Stars Hollow. Reminds me of like the Gilmore Girls, like sort of the small, quirky town, a bunch of quirky people, and just sort of good people doing good things and helping people. And again, this is definitely kind of like the equivalent of like cinematic comfort food. It might not be super deep or even all that nutritious, but it just makes you feel really good. It definitely uplifts you. Bryan Cranston, who plays Jerry, the of Breaking Bad fame, who plays the main character in this, in some of his interviews kind of about the movie that I saw, that I think this movie was like filmed right in like the onset of like COVID and all that stuff, and everyone was fearful, and it's just it's a difficult time. And in the interviews kind of shared, he was drawn to this movie because he wanted to sort of give someone some joy, uplift people in a dark time. I think in that sense, this film definitely delivers in that aim. And speaking of Cranston, him and then Annette Bening, who plays Marge, they're an older married couple. And they're both good in their roles. They're both kind of endearing, this likable people. And in a lot of ways, their characters, at least to me, were super refreshing. It's not, usually Hollywood, you kind of have like the idolization of this like perpetual youth, and it's all kind of young characters. And you just don't get a whole lot of stories of characters that aren't just young and in their prime. And you have sort of these two older characters kind of exploring kind of what they're going through. And I think even just the way that they do their relationship is just really believable. It's really nuanced. You don't get in Hollywood, you don't always get a lot of like successful long-time marriages. You kind of get, usually the movie stops right at the end when like the honeymoon phase and they're just falling in love. And so this story kind of is a counter to that. You have these characters that have been, I don't think the film says exactly how long they've been married, but obviously they've been together for a long time. I do think they say maybe like when they were like 17 or 18 they got married, and they're shown, the characters are shown like they're quirky, they're not perfect. You can see some of the tensions that they had in their marriage, and even some of maybe their shortcomings as with their relationship with their kids. So it's not just like super idealized perfect characters, but they're just good people, and they kind of work through their issues. It's kind of a refreshing lack of angst. It's just, their characters make mistakes, but they're quick to forgive. They trust each other. They have a more nuanced, kind of deep relationship, which I just think, especially as a Christian, kind of approaching some of these Hollywood films, it is refreshing just to sort of see good people relating to each other in healthy ways, a successful marriage, parenting that's not perfect, but that they can still kind of come to some understanding. So I do think there's a lot of wholesome stuff just in the way that the characters are portrayed and like the relational dynamics. Some viewers might find this the movie kind of slow. Again, it's like based on a true story, so there's only so much they can do to like add tension and stakes, and there's really not a whole lot of that. But I actually like that. I like that it was more of a relaxed, kind of restrained pace. That it's just sort of showing these characters' journeys, and they're not trying to add a bunch of like tension between Jerry and Marge, and trying to put a wedge between them, and just sort of that artificial kind of sentimental stuff that you usually get in kind of the more fictional stories. Kind of the one exception is there is sort of kind of the other group. There's sort of these cocky Harvard school kids that also kind of figure out the loophole, and so they're kind of in competition trying to to win the lottery, and they want to get rid of the other party so that raises their own odds, and I don't know. I think in some ways you can tell they kind of played it up as like, hey, we need some kind of villain, we need some kind of antagonist and stuff. So they kind of play that's sort of the role that these characters fall into. But at least for me, they come across a little cartoonish, a little, like I was always glad just to get back to Jerry and Marge, because I found their relationship just kind of real grounded and more nuanced, rather than sort of these, I guess more like what you'd expect from like a Hollywood kind of just like a fictional story. Some of these cartoonist characters, again, they didn't like ruin the movie for me, but I do think overall it is a slower paced film, but I think that's actually, at least for me, like a benefit that lets you kind of get to know the characters and kind of just feel good about their journey, rather than just trying to manufacture a bunch of forced tension. As far as this content to consider, violence, there's none. Definitely no violence in this movie. Sexuality, there's also really none. There's a couple of kind of veiled references to sex, but just between like this married couple. And at one point, like in a hotel, they kind of the wife implies strongly what her desires are, and they kind of give each other different looks and kiss and fall into bed, and then the scene cuts. So there's nothing nothing real concerning sexually, and even the stuff that it does show is done in like a healthy, marital way. So nothing there. Profanity is kind of the one that, as far as this content, that is somewhat unfortunate. I think it's not over the top, but it just seemed a little, for a movie like this, the amount of kind of profanity in this film just seemed kind of at odds with the tone and kind of the family-friendly, feel-good vibe. Again, it's not like, just crazy every second word. There's no F-bombs or anything, but just kind of by my count, there were like 7 S words and a handful, maybe 4 or 5 other kind of minor profanities. So again, it didn't necessarily like ruin the movie for me, but if profanity is something that just you just don't want to have anywhere in the movie, there is probably more than you'd expect for at least the type of movie that this is going for. As far as the themes, things going on kind of beneath the surface, there's a couple of things that I found interesting that this, again, the way it deals with the themes isn't necessarily super nuanced or, very subtle, but I do think that the themes that it is kind of exploring in these characters are worthy ones for Christians that I think can be inspiring or challenging. I think the first theme is just sort of finding purpose. Again, this isn't like a faith-based Christian film, but I definitely think as a Christian viewer, there kind of you can fill in the gaps of some of this, of just sort of realizing that, your whole life is there is sort of a bigger purpose beyond just sort of living. And at one point, kind of near the beginning of the film, again, Jerry, his character, is just sort of forced into or not an early retirement, but he's forced into a retirement before he would have liked to. He would have kept working, trying to find his identity of, what I do now that I'm not working my job. And at one point, he has a quote which says, "I missed my chance. I did everything I was supposed to do, everything I had to do. Now it's too late to do anything else." And kind of the turning point of this film, kind of, about midway through, when they're starting to figure out this lottery, Marge, his wife, asked him, said, "Did you ever think maybe the world wasn't passing you by? Maybe you were meant to be here?" And again, they don't necessarily hit you over the nose. They don't like bring God into the equation. But I do think it does look at kind of everything that he's been through, sort of the seemingly insignificant stuff, the mundane, this sort of working, how he's gifted with his math that he kind of always saw as almost like a detriment, that it kind of got in the way of his relationships. And part of the journey of these characters is just kind of learning that, hey, there is purpose. It's not too late to be a blessing, to use these gifts that we had for the common good. So as Christians, I think there's definitely stuff to kind of latch on to for that. And probably the other theme is just sort of, I guess, like greed or individualistic kind of desires as opposed to like the common good. Obviously, this is a movie about gambling, which I think for a lot of Christians might make them feel a little squeamish. It's not usually the topic that a lot of Christians want to flock to go see a movie about gambling. But at least to me, this movie really isn't about gambling. This doesn't kind of glamorize or the thrill of of the game. That actually, in a lot of ways, it's the exact opposite of that. That it kind of downplays that, hey, this is a sort of a game. This lottery is just sort of a vehicle for for blessing people and helping the community, and kind of taking the money and rebuilding the buildings and encouraging the people that are down or going through hard times. And while I wasn't crazy about the Harvard subplot, I think having those characters on a kind of a thematic level does work. It's kind of a contrast to kind of the common good approach of Jerry and Marge. You have these kind of cocky college kids that are just in it for the money. They just want to sort of win the game. It is about the money in the game, and kind of tricking people and kind of being the smartest person in the room. And you just kind of see throughout the film just sort of, the results or consequences of those two different lifestyles, where the one kind of, even though they keep winning, this sort of isolation, this not fulfilled, where Jerry and Marge, you can kind of see the bigger purpose of it. And it kind of brought to mind, at least to me, like the rich young ruler in the Bible, and kind of Jesus's words to, hey, go give all your money to the poor and leave it behind and follow me. Not that money is the problem, but just sort of the pursuit of money at the expense of sort of other people. So in some ways, this film almost works as like a modern day parable for some of that story in the Bible. So in the end, I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. This isn't necessarily a movie that you want to watch a bunch of times, or I think is going to be a big hit, or I don't think it's going to probably won't be nominated for awards or anything like that. But like I said at the start, it's kind of, for me, this is cinematic comfort food. It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite movies, Dan in Real Life, where it's just, hey, you watch this movie, it's not it's not designed to really make you think or question, or it's just to uplift you, to make you feel good. And hopefully, I think this is the sort of movie that can also kind of inspire people to kind of look at the people around them, their own communities, and question, hey, this is where God's put me. How can I use my gifts to be a blessing to people? So I do think it is definitely a movie that I think Christians can get a lot out of, and can enjoy some of the wholesome content. But let me know if you guys do check out this movie, or maybe you hadn't heard of it, maybe you're looking forward to it. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this movie. If you saw some of the same themes, some of the questions, if it just made you feel good, like I felt good after watching this movie, I would love to have that conversation with you guys. If you guys haven't done so, I encourage you, subscribe to our channel. We got a lot of big movie reviews and live streams and just other fun video stuff that we're doing here at The Collision. We'd love to have you be a part of that. Make sure to like this video. But most of all, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe and continue to collide through World for Christ.